Hi, welcome to First Church. My name is Anna Bundy Hagler, and I am one of the associate ministers here. If you are watching with us live, we are so grateful that you are getting ready for worship with us. Go ahead and drop a comment to let us know that you're here. I know that you're either on Facebook or YouTube. Drop those comments. If you're watching this on our website, send me an email. Tell me you were watching. Tell me your favorite part. Anything. Just email me. Let me know. And then if you're watching this later, thank you so much for taking time out of your afternoon to watch, to be informed about what's going on with First Church. I've got this guy here. People generally know your name, but this is Mitchell Boone. He's our senior minister.
Yes.
People kind of like what you have to say about things.
Well, that's good. That's part of my job is to say stuff about things. So
Stuff about things.
No, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm grateful that you're here. So as you know, Roy and I take turns hosting this.
Yes.
And since we have approved our mission and vision statements, what I wanted to say is, one, we'll remind you, because we always do, the mission statement is to magnify God's love for all people by creating space for belonging, purpose, justice, and joy.
Right.
And then our vision statement is to be a church that illuminates a divine path towards spiritual growth within ourselves, our city, and our denomination, so that all may flourish.
Right.
We've really heavy hit on the mission statement, so I don't have the vision memorized
that makes
yet.
sense though, right? I mean, because the mission statement is going to be like what organizes us, what sort of unites us in our day-to-day work. So yes, it's important to have a vision about where you want to end up, but the mission statement is really that critical thing that we need to know in and out, because it's going to it is already affecting so much of how we work together and how we organize ourselves.
I love that so much. What you might not know is that Roy asked everybody who's on the show what their favorite part of the mission statement is.
Oh.
So I am asking you the same question.
Yeah, well, I have two. If you want two favorite parts of the mission statement, you can really take the mission statement, I think, and break it into sort of three chunks. It's like, what is the goal, right? It's to magnify God's love for all people by, how are we going to do that? And that is to create space. And so I really love this idea of creating space, because I think that is a part of what it means to be human, to have sort of this creative output. Yeah. And also it assumes that there will be something new that is always sort of emerging, right? We don't create things that are already created. Right. That doesn't mean we get rid of things that are created, but it does sort of encourage us to create. And then I really like the core four functions, right? Which are belong, purpose, justice, and joy. And I think that it's accurate because our church already does these things really well.
It's so innately in us here.
Yeah, it's authentically us. Yeah. And so that's going to help us really live into it well, because we're not having to try to do something that we aren't already focused on doing.
Yeah. Wow, I love that. It's funny, I watch the videos of Roy asking people, and Roy assumes that people are going to choose one of the four core functions. Yeah. So every time they have a different answer, he's awesome. Beside himself, because he's like, I didn't even know that was an option.
What are people choosing?
So actually, people are choosing outside of the core functions. I think Elizabeth's was creating space. Yep. Aaron Rendell's was creating space. Monica Frazier's was magnifying God's love. And mine was for all people. So, yeah. It's just been really cool to watch how the mission has really sunk into the staff, and how we've really taken it to heart and seen how we can implement it in our work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, our job as a staff is not to necessarily do it all, but to help the congregation live into the mission, right? Yeah. I mean, that's why we exist as church staff, to help the church achieve its mission. And the good thing is, this mission statement is derived exactly from our congregation, right? Yeah. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Well, so that was one thing that we talked about actually at the town hall last week too. Yes. So double duty, Sunday, which is great. Another one is that Karen Kendall, who's the head of trustees right now, gave a report. Yes. And to let you know, a part of that report was one about the building. Yes. About the roof.
About the roof.
The leaks and damages and plans to replace. Yep. It also talked about how trustees, finance, and church council are going to kind of restructure some funds with the Shaw Estate.
Correct.
Into 5 different buckets, which we hope will have even better impact than they do now.
Totally.
Like, we really are gifted with all of these funds that have helped things like the building or previous things like the roof. But now what I love about the 3, trustees, finance, and church council, thinking about the Shaw Estate, which was a large gift that we were given, that people have kind of searched through and gotten to the meat of it. Like, how are we going to use that money for long-term impact?
Yeah.
And we need it both for creative impact, like evangelism in the world. We also need a bit of it for like keeping our building up, right? Because we have this beautiful building we're in, and it's also 100 years old.
It is almost 100 years old. Yeah.
And so I just thought they did a really good job in that. And then we talked about modern worship, which we'll get to later.
Sure.
And stewardship.
Yes.
So you want to talk a little bit about stewardship? Today is Commitment Sunday.
Today is Commitment Sunday.
Yes.
So if you are watching this right now, you have an opportunity to participate in our stewardship campaign. We hope that all of our members here at the church make a pledge, which is essentially, what someone plans on giving in the upcoming year. And that sort of act of generosity is a really vital part of our discipleship. And it also helps us really plan well and be good stewards of our gifts in the coming year. So we like to both be flexible in our ministry approach, but also we need to be able to know what we can expect in terms of income so that we can do our best job at stretching those dollars and making sure that your giving has an impact, not only in this building, but outside in the community. Yeah,
that's a good word. I also am like really drawn to this theme. I've never thought about money
having a gravitational pull.
Yeah, but it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
What do you love about the theme?
I think that, this idea that the pursuit of wealth can like take over our lives in very subtle ways is worth exploring, because I think so many of us are constantly, whether, that's on the surface or below the surface, we're always sort of worried about our financial state. And there's a part of our faith that calls us to sort of let go of that worry and anxiety. And that's hard to do, much like gravity. It's like constantly pulling at us. And so, I think the themes really allowed us to explore different ways of orbiting something else, right? And that's really what it means to be a Christ follower. And so I think it's been good. And, it's a little science.
Good. It's been fun. I think people are really latching onto it. I just love it when like you're preaching and then Elizabeth preached one week and both of y'all are like, I'm not a scientist, but I did read this.
Totally.
I just want you to know, we're not expecting you to be a scientist.
I watched Bill Nye.
Yes, obviously.
Yeah, duh.
How could you not?
He's the best.
He's the best.
Yeah, so I'm not a scientist, but I do believe in gravity.
Yeah, we do believe in gravity. And I will say the other thing I love about the stewardship campaign every year is that for a while we've had this tradition of inviting members to give their testimonials.
Yeah.
And so we
really
started
powerful.
with Scott and Steve, Scott Berry and Steve Krebaum, and they talked about how they've been here like 40 years.
Yeah.
And really, when I go back to the mission statement, the reason that my favorite part right now is for all people is Scott kept saying in his testimony in the sanctuary, I believe we have so much more potential.
Yeah.
Like not only are we already great, but we have so much more potential.
Yeah.
And then even this week you talked about, this past week you talked about how like our, like one place we can start is with gratitude.
Yeah.
And how we can have gratitude in this building for people who have like done the work before us.
Totally.
Yeah, and so when I think of for all people, this stewardship theme has really reminded me of like there are people past who have done so much work for us.
Yeah.
Like because of their generosity, we're here.
Right.
We have the pastors that we have the mission outreach opportunities that we have. We have the building that we do. Like we have the kind of reputation that we do. And then presently, like we have incredible people who are here.
Absolutely.
And also for Scott, who's been here over 40 years, to say, and we have so much more potential to want to reach people. It's so cool.
It's really cool.
Sorry, Scott Steve, still inspired by it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Brian and Hollis were, 2 weeks ago, and they were just so precious.
Yeah.
I loved it because Brian grew up here. I didn't know his grandparents were here, but that makes sense. And then Hollis married in.
Yeah.
And so I love the dichotomy between the two stories, and that both of them found a place
Totally.
to call this home.
Yeah.
And then last week, Sherry and Martin gave a great testimonial.
Sure.
I always love when bankers get up and speak about money in a church setting, because it's not all numbers. They put a lot of warmth behind it.
Totally.
And I thought they did a beautiful job really telling about the United Methodist story.
Yeah.
Because they came to us from different connections in the United Methodist Church.
Yeah.
And the reason that they believe so deeply in giving and being faithful is because they grew up knowing that you give.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the sort of, we see this. There are some that that have that sort of spiritual maturity already because it was taught to them at a very early age.
Which, what a gift.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I think that's, we have that same responsibility, I think, with our children to ensure that they know that generosity isn't really an optional thing. To be a Christ follower is to be generous. And when you can connect those dots early, you see fruit for decades to come.
Yeah. Joe Stabile, he always says that when he teaches kindergarten, first graders about stewardship, he's always like, if the plate passes by, you should put $1 in it. And just know that that's a gift from God that you get to give back to the church. And I love that. Okay. So, how are you feeling about the campaign?
Great. Yeah. I mean, today's going to be a big day.
It's going to be, this is one of my favorite days of the whole year, by the way.
Yeah, Commitment Sunday is awesome because we sort of gather together in the church. We have a beautiful worship service, and then we get to go celebrate at a fall festival.
Yeah.
And so one of my favorite days of the year. It also, I think the campaign's really resonated with people, and my hope and prayer is that through our generosity, we'll be able to do all that we hope to do in the coming year.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's been a good campaign. I've really appreciated it. I've really appreciated yours and Elizabeth's sermons. I've really appreciated the study guide.
Yep.
I just think it's been a good vibe.
And it's not too late to participate. So if you haven't filled out a pledge card, we really encourage you to do so.
Online, in person, mail it to us. We'll take it.
Yeah.
Okay, I only have one last thing for us, and that's modern worship.
Yeah,
because people are hearing, last Sunday, if you come in the Harwood entrance, you could hear some contemporary Christian music.
Some guitars and drums.
Keys.
And things. Keys,
Yeah, coming from the theater.
The theater, the Rotunda Theater, or also the
Wortley Peabody Theater,
right?
Yes.
Yeah, so modern worship is sort of off the ground now. And last week we had our first dress rehearsal. We'll have another one here in a couple weeks, and then we'll have some preview services for the congregation to come check it out. It's an opportunity for us to expand who we're trying to reach with the good news of the gospel. And we believe that we have a theology that deserves wide reach, and that people are hungry for it. They need it. It's a progressive theological position in the world that often doesn't go with contemporary or modern worship. We have a lot of good modern worship in the city of Dallas.
Yeah.
But we often find that modern worship is with theology that we think's not that good.
Yeah.
So how do we take what we believe and allow others to experience that in a non-traditional setting? And so modern worship is going to start at 10:30 on Sunday mornings. We're really hoping to launch it publicly in January. We're also going to have a night of worship in December for the public, and I'm very, very excited to see what it's going to look like.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. I just think so many of my friends who are not in the church because they went to evangelical churches that had modern worship left because of harmful theology.
Yeah.
And if we get to be a small piece of hope for people who are still really in love with God and want to pursue their relationship with Christ, but they want a modern service because that feels more comfortable. Why aren't we offering that?
Yeah, and so it's a challenge for us, but I think it's going to be something that's going to really be of great benefit to not only our current community, but also those we call friends and neighbors.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for being with us.
Yeah.
We are it's been so great. You should do it more often.
Sure. Anytime.
We believe that God is doing big things here at the corner of Ross and Harwood, and we want you to be involved. If you're watching this, please make sure you're commenting or letting us know that you are a part of this community online or in person, so that we can connect with you. Use your gifts and graces here, and so that you get to know who we are. Now, let us go worship together.